All right, so we were talking about collective action, and we were just starting to get deeper into the idea of collective action. And I was just mentioning that we are generally unified by problem, but divided by the solutions. Most of the time, it happens because we feel that our solution is a better solution, and so on and so forth. But how do we come together? What hinders coming together? How do we make sure that coming together is also creating some impact? These are the questions that we would probably, over the next 1.5 hours, we would try to explore. As you are already maybe witnessing, this session is going to be very informal kind of setup. It would not be like 2 to 3 of us are talking, but mostly a conversation. As I have been told, that on the right hand side, except for Rashidi, there are all the entrepreneurs, and on the left hand side, we have few audience as well. We would try to learn more about from the perspective from the ground as well. And some of you may be starting up just now. Some of you are matured organizations. I know my friends over there. They are coming from a matured organization. But what are those challenges that they have felt in coming together as a collective and driving a larger change? But before we get into all those things, let's also, first of all, I would say, let's give a good round of applause to the group over here, because collective action, having this kind of audience, I think is a good thing. And second, I would say, maybe if we can get started with a quick introduction to sir, yourself, and then probably all the entrepreneurs, they can talk about their organization in one line, their mission and vision. Sir, over to you.
My name is Pramad Sinha. I'm involved in setting up Ashoka University, and before that I was lead and I was on the board.
Hello everyone, this is Akshay here. I'm all the way from Bangalore. This is my first UFI event thanks to my wife, who's a 2018 fellow. I've had my fair share of educational, I would say, commitment to society, where I taught at an out-of-system school on the outskirts of the city of Mysore, and it was not a formal fellowship per se, but then I gave my commitment in terms of 4-5 hours a day for about a year and a half, and I've worked for Bosch in Bangalore before. Currently, I run a for-profit organization where we help our clients on their digital transformation journey. So it's brief about it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Shubhankar from the Unifly Collective, and what we do is work in school leadership and student leadership towards the vision that all children will have a meaningful education, which will enable them to feel, think, dream, and take action.
Hello, I'm Astha, and I run a Sadharan Foundation. We are from Surat, Gujarat, and we work towards transforming government schools and providing holistic education to all the children.
Good afternoon. My name is Vaishnavi. I'm masked up not because of COVID, but because I have a small cough. Sorry about that. I run the Bhumi Fellowship in Chennai, Coimbatore, and Trichy, and the focus is whole school transformation.
Hello everyone, my name is Ganesh. I'm from Nagpur. I'm running an organization called Learning Companions in Nagpur. So it has two parts, I think. One is building leaders for that region, like Mumbai में हो रहा है, पुणे में हो रहा है, तो वहाँ leaders कैसे create होंगे, that's one mission. And the second part of it is building model of education for nomadic children. Basically, that's like about a 13 crore population of India, which do not have. How do you teach children who are on the move? That's something we are trying to explore.
Hello everyone, I'm Vinayak. I'm from Vidyodaya Muktangan Parivar Foundation. So we are working in Maharashtra, Kolhapur district. So we are working with government schools.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Shweta. I lead Key Education Foundation. We are an organization focused on supporting government, state and districts to deliver early childhood education programs. So we work on teacher training, parent engagement and play for young children in India.
Hello everyone, this is Dada Saheb from Gram Urja Foundation. We are rural Maharashtra-based organization, and as most of the other entrepreneurs are working with rural government schools, we also work with rural government schools, but those schools are with most of the migrant populations or children coming from sugarcane cutting migrant families. So currently we are working with almost 11 schools covering their Bhasha, Ganit and Jeevan Kaushalya. These are three things that we work on. Thank you.
I'm Sahitya from Hyderabad 2014 fellow. For the last 6 years, we had co-founded Inquilab Foundation with two other Teach for India fellows, Ishwar and Vivek. So the mission that we are working on is nurturing problem-solving capacity in children such that they can be change makers. We've seen some amazing examples of that over the last 7 years. And yeah, that's where we're at. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Moinak. I run Simple Education Foundation. So I think all of you who were there yesterday, I think you're pretty convinced that teachers are closest to a silver bullet that we have to change the world. My organization works to ensure that every classroom has a teacher who's loving, skilled, and intuitive, so that over the next 2 decades, before we hit potentially 100 years of India's independence, we can solve for the challenge of education inequity.
Hello everyone, my name is Sakshi. I run this organization Anubhuti Samiti. We work with out of school and dropout children. Our vision is to create a accessibility to the children who are not part of the formal education system. And how we are doing it? We are creating a movement of local leaders, gaon ke yuva ka leaders, who work as a catalyst and bring the systemic level change.
Hi, I'm Binoy. Because people were giving origins. I'm from Kerala, but a Hyderabad 2016 fellow in Delhi, building Y Ultimate. We are a non-profit that uses the sport of Ultimate Frisbee to build life skills in young people so that they can thrive and ultimately build livelihoods and change their families.
Surinder.
हेलो, मेरा नाम सुरेंद्र है और मैं SRI सेल्फ लाइंड इंडिया संस्था को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा हूँ। सो हमारा उद्देश्य है कि जो परिवार अभी तक गरीबी में है उनकी एक जनरेशन को कैसे देश की बेस्ट एजुकेशन दे ताकि वो पॉवर्टी से बाहर आ जाए।
Hi, I'm Vivek. I work with an organization called Shamtale Foundation. I am from Bihar. We work in few districts in Rajasthan, Bihar and Delhi. And we primarily work on cultivating local leadership and then work with government to support them in enabling better learning, well-being and governance.
Hello everyone, I'm Gayatri. I represent Arthan Careers. My co-founder is Rahul Balakrishnan, who is also a ex-TFI fellow from the 2014 Delhi cohort. We are recruitment consultants for the social impact space. We hire people who create impact in this space, or mostly for the social impact. So yes.
Perfect. I think
yeah, a lot of noise coming. Oh, okay, you have to keep it open.
It's a security topic, but
yeah.
they can put a coin there.
That's fine.
Figure something out.
Yeah, also, can we also request people who has come here as participants to move to the side and the panelists this side? That would just help us move with the panel faster. Or if it's okay, we can just...
Yeah,
I think we can just continue.
Yeah.
Lisa, if you can also introduce.
Yeah. Also, Lisa is just...
Do I just speak in
Yeah,
here? Hi, I'm Nisa. Really lovely to see you all here. I've been involved with Teach for India for about a decade. Shaheen had come and given a talk at our office and I was extremely inspired by it. So I went up and spoke to her and she tried to convince me to join the fellowship, but I unfortunately didn't have the courage or character for it. And then I think she gave me this second chance to be involved with it. I'm just really happy to be here with you all. I think really what will help us solve education inequity is leadership, is brilliant ideas, and hopefully also technology used in the right way. Thank you.
Okay. ये आपको देना? Okay. So thank you so much everyone for introducing yourself briefly. I think this is setting up a very great starting or base for our interactions. So many entrepreneurs, some audience, and two veterans here, and I'm just doing the role of getting things together. So that's a good part to be doing. So let's start with this. Let's start understanding now. We have organization from early childhood to higher education to out of school children to in school children. We have all kinds of different kinds, and we have talent pool generation organization as well. So why should we come together? Why if everybody is doing good work and you all are in your geographies with your set of schools are already doing great work, why should we come together? And I would like to maybe first start with Pramod.
Whoever has the mic speaks first.
Go ahead.
No, I think the challenge, like you said, while we are united in the challenge is so great. The scale of the challenge in our country is so great that we do. The assumption is, or the hypothesis is, that if you came together, then you'd be able to solve the bigger challenge at scale. Because it is also true that all of what we are each doing is a small piece is only impacting a small piece. And I feel that particularly about the work I do in education, setting up one university doesn't solve any problem. So it's almost futile when you sometimes get up in the morning and you think, okay, we have some few thousand students who we are teaching. Isse kya hoga? So you still keep at it, but the problem is that each of these seems like a drop, a spray in the ocean, and you have to solve for the ocean. So I assume that maybe a topic dekh ke I was not sure where it was going, but my simple-minded assumption is that the reason we brought the topic together is that if we could all get together, the assumption is we could solve for the scale challenge.
Sir, you would be happy to know that there are many people from Ashoka University that we have recruited,
Okay.
and they are working at scale. So it's
Okay, good.
so you're
No, so those are the justifications you give to yourself. कि चलो, you are creating leverage. These people will go out and make a difference, and so on. But ये भी लगता है कि दिल बहलाने की बात है ये कि is it really actually solving a problem?
आप लोगों को क्या लगता है, मतलब any entrepreneur who would like to talk about कि ये दिल बहलाने की बात है कि सच में collective action से कुछ होता है. Hindi English, I think everybody is comfortable with Hindi English mix, right? Anybody who's not comfortable? Perfect.
So I would say it's both things. One, just giving small example of one organization we are collaborating with. One of my friends, like 50 kilometers away from where my work is, and he's running some brilliant initiative in generating livelihood for women there. And he felt he wants to run his school better. And he knew that I am working with children, and it just organically happened. Looking back, what I see, if I wanted to run a center, I know there is another center of mine of same scale, teaching 50, 60 children, appointing 2-3 teachers. It cost me about 3-4 lakhs. There, it would have been additional cost. For me, raising that cost, finding the people from that community, building a relationship in another community, it was too much for me to do. For him, he was into livelihoods. And then finding someone to groom his teacher volunteers, so that was impossible, and he wouldn't have considered it. But the just discussion happened, and for him, the only thing he had to do was identify 2 people from his community and send to our program. And for me, I had already an established program. We included those 2 people in training. We appointed only 1 program manager sometime to support those 2 fellows. And a same center of the same size is working there. And so I think that's what collaboration really makes possible. That's costing me nothing literally to run that space, and also not for him as well. So I think that's one part. Definitely, so many. I think everyone here will have so many of those stories. That's one part. Second part, I think, is the universe is very big, and human history itself is so long. I feel it's just good not to worry about it, because and only thing I see is we are moving further. We are even when we criticize government school and all, is the schools who have been biggest democratic spaces. The shift, imagine, from 100 years ago to now, it's because of schools that were we criticize so much as dysfunctional. Definitely, they need to change now, and we need to shift into something. But I think something hope we can take is definitely we are moving forward. So that's how I feel about it.
I would say that's amazing examples of how you have been able to get things together, which also brings me to Nisa. In your experience, you have been involved in social sector. You told last 1 decade. You chose not to join the fellowship. I think it's a loss for all of us. But in your experience,
It might have been good for those children. But
how have you seen the collective space emerging, or are you seeing anything over there, or you are still seeing people talking about their organization, their work?
No, and I think, sorry, what was your name? Ganesh. So, I read this book. I don't know if some of you might have read it. It's a 2018 book by this author, Harvard professor called Steven Pinker. And he speaks about enlightenment now, and basically these enlightenment values of reason, science, and humanity. And over a 200-year period, how much we've improved, correct? You think of Norman Borlaug and the Green Revolution, you think of vaccines, like just on every, even things like LGBTQ rights, gender rights. So I do think this is not just to make ourselves feel better. Sometimes it does feel that it's 2 steps back, 1 step forward, depending who's in leadership at that time. But I think there is progress. And when you come from the corporate world and whatever's good and bad there, but I think of something, we make soap, and good quality soap reaches it's at least for anyone who can afford to buy it, but it's a 99% penetration. So, modern manufacturing scale gives you that. So I think even in these, if you look at even in India, this move from public schools to private school market is trying to fix it. But how do we get these private schools to deliver quality education? So I do feel like uh, this cross pollination of ideas, people coming together. I don't think any of the world's great problems were solved just singularly. So I think these spaces are very important. And really, when I come into the Teach for India space, when you meet alumni, you meet the fellows, you meet the students. I mean, I at least always leave inspired of the possibility of India and what we can do. Because if you read the newspapers every day, it doesn't feel like that. But there is real progress happening. I don't think the media covers it as much as it should. And that's not to say that they're not serious problems we face, but I do believe that we can solve them together.
Perfect. So this is I actually liked your example of penetration of soap and how so many people would come together to ensure that a soap from your factory is reaching to a household. Now, that also reminds me of a conversation that I was having with Mr. Shibulal. It was in 2018 or 19. I asked him, we are looking for some funding to create collective action. But I started telling him that I'm looking for some funding to create a highway of collaboration. And he asked, what does it mean? And I told him that even if we are doing something, say at the state level, and if we don't have that highway from where the things can move from a state to a school, the things are not going to work properly for us, which is what I could connect very nicely with the soap example that you gave. How can we keep creating those highways on which multiple collaborations can also happen? Which also brings me to the next point, and I think over here, Pramath and Nisa, will start with you rather than the entrepreneurs, and which is about what is the role of patients capital in building collective action. Now, many a times when we go to, and all of us who run non-profits here would empathize with that. Not like Teach for India kind of organization, but we have smaller organizations, and we would uh, go to CSRs, we would go to many donors. They would like to go for instant gratification versus a collective action or a systems change kind of approach will require delayed gratification. So how do you find those? Where are these funders, or what do you say to these funders that people start giving you money? See, if you are really looking for people to come together, converge, and there is no money, it's very difficult. So where to find these funders? Maybe go ahead, sir.
Listen, I come also from the world of business, and I see a lot of analogy and similar, lessons, if I would say. I think the patient capital comes once you have proven yourself. So you have to have a few successes under your belt before you have earned the right to ask for patient capital. Then you can go and say, listen, look, I made this happen. I understand the issues on the ground. I have shown that I can get it done. Now let me tell you that to scale it up, I need a different order of commitment from you. I think there are people like that. I think we are always underconfident. I am always about asking for money. It feels awkward anyway. And then to say that, nahi, maine kar diya, now give me more money, feels a little bit awkward. But I'm not trying to say that I'm not saying it is easy. Nothing is easy. But I do think that the required necessary condition is that you first have to prove yourself. And that's how the world is. The world will only reward you or give you the right to take your time to make systemic change happen if you've shown that you understand and can deliver. Understanding, to a lot of people give gyan, right? Ki ye aise kar denge, ye kar denge, wo kar denge. But I think really being able to demonstrate that and earn the credibility and trust and then keep asking for more. I think if we could all have some button we could turn on in ourselves, which would switch we could turn on, which would give us the confidence to go and say, give me the money and I'll transform the whole entire higher education system in India. That would be also an enabler, but I think it's hard to do that. But at least there is steps you can take in that direction once you've tasted some success. If that makes sense.
Any comments? Any quick comments? Yes, please. Sir.
Thank you for sharing that, Pramathan. I realize कि proven idea के साथ साथ you should have a very good program also, because this is my learning that you are creating something that is not relevant to your context, relevant to your audience. It would be very difficult to talk with the partner, donor, to share your insights, क्योंकि वो भी किसी ना किसी एक्सपीरियंस से आ रहे हैं, वो भी कहीं ना कहीं काम कर रहे हैं. तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आपके पास एक अच्छा प्रोग्राम हो. और I would share Anubhuti's story because we started with nothing, right? We just have children and the teachers, and we just did some pilot, कुछ किया, कुछ वो नहीं चला, and trial basis पे हमने बस करते रहे 1 साल तक. And जो research और जो प्रोग्राम हमने बनाया उसने बहुत हेल्प किया फंडर्स को अलाइन करने में, वैल्यूज अलाइन करने में, और उसकी वजह से बहुत आसान हो गई ये जर्नी. आई वुड रियली अलाइन विद द शेयरिंग की प्रूवन होना चाहिए. यस, जब आपके पास सक्सेस होगी, मेट्रिक्स होंगे, छोटे छोटे विन्स होंगे, इट्स वेरी इजी. बट उसके साथ साथ आपके पास प्रोग्राम बहुत अच्छा होना चाहिए जो कि आपकी ऑडियंस के अकॉर्डिंग हो.
I just, probably an extension to the question was emerging, which was I think totally agree on the proven impact model, right? And I think having, say, worked in early childhood for 7 years, I believe we've cracked impact indicators as an individual organization at a classroom as a unit level. And now we are talking collaboration. And I think there is so much value. It also helps you see possible unintended consequences in a system, right? I mean, I am driving for instructional time, but that health and nutrition in an Anganwadi is equally important. If I bring another foundation for mother and health, child health next to me, how do we balance out services? How do we exercise more empathy? All of this comes in. Indicators of impact change. My indicators of impact as a unit organization working alone were so high. And when I bring in collaboration, it changes. But that changed indicator is probably more sustainable in the long run. And I really struggle to articulate this because I also am not, I mean, I'm beginning to see it emerge, but I'm not convinced. So I'm very curious about what others think about how a funding ecosystem or an organization ecosystem views this change in what impact looks like when you collaborate. I mean, the indicator of impact changes. So how do you, and it's not only how do you articulate, but is a funding ecosystem willing to see that shift where I showed you 98% impact? Now, when I have a collaborator, I will have 60% impact. And it will look like that because we are embracing complexity. But how do you have that conversation is a question I've struggled with.
Would you like to quickly react on it? Nisa, Pramod, anybody?
No, let the others.
Okay, all right.
Maybe I'm still
There are
processing your tough questions.
Yeah, it's a, and very gracefully you articulated. Thank you for that.
I think what I was thinking was that how collaboration is not just at the NGO level, but also at the community level. That when we are working in the community, how it is important for the community people to also connect with your vision and your movement. Just talking about the thing that we tried on the ground, that Sadharan Foundation, we adopt the government schools. Now, when we adopt the government schools, there are so many things in the government system that you can't change. But you have to work with that. So we can't just say that, अच्छा आप लोग जो कर रहे हो वो सब हटा दो, हम जो ला रहे हैं आप वही follow करो, and they would not accept it also. So accepting that वो जो कर रहे हैं उसमें हम क्या चीज कर सकते हैं, and collaborating at that level, I think that is also so much important as an organization. Understanding, because I don't know, Gujarat mein there is this problem where teachers don't have a space to come out and say that हमें class में ये challenge हो रहा है and we want to solve this. Like, how can we solve this? They don't have a space to share that, and that's why we created this space called Teachers Milap, where every month we keep a space and we ask teachers that what is the problem you are facing in the class and how we can help you in that. So with this few things, they are understanding what we are doing and why we are doing this, and they are able to connect. So today we have 57 teachers on board who are willing to do what we want them to do. So I think connecting and understanding with the people that we are working with is also important while we are talking about collaboration. This was just the thoughts, though. Yeah.
I think I had the same thing running in my mind, that how do we sort of reframe the grammar of impact when collaboration happens. I do also want to put out something else, which is I feel collaboration is easier when you do X, someone else does Y, and together you can offer the whole sort of A to Z. But I think where more focus, probably, at least where how I see it, we need to figure out is where I do A, you also do A. How can we come together and ensure that there's a bold big A, right? So that is, I think, where the struggle is. And I'm really sort of resonating with Nipun's talk in the morning, where he said that, the larger part of the satyagraha is the self-purification. And how do you sort of really prepare yourself before you go and say that, oh, I'm going to change the world. So I think that's something I'm really resonating with, but would love to hear like your thoughts around not only challenges, but any ideas around how do we make the A bolder and bigger.
सो एक था कि जो प्रमथ ने भी बोला और बाकी लोगों ने भी जो रेजोनेट किया, फॉर्चुनेटली वी आर सिटिंग टुगेदर and we work with the kind of similar set of communities or children coming from the similar set of background. So we are based out of Beed district, which is one of the drought prone area of the Maharashtra, जहाँ से लोग out migrate करते हैं, and they travel with their children, which creates a kind of 5 to 6 months of gap in their education and all those things. But these people, we later on became friends as well. These people are working with the children and communities who migrate from our district to their district. So these are like sugarcane belt of Maharashtra, and we are like a drought people kind of Maharashtra. So we thought of like अगर हम same communities के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, क्या हम उन बच्चों को similar kind of environment दे सकते हैं? क्या हम उन बच्चों को ये फील करा सकते हैं कि अरे हम सिस्टम से बाहर नहीं जा रहे हैं? क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट आल्सो ट्राइड विथ गिविंग ग्रीन कार्ड्स एंड ऑल दोज थिंग्स, ताकि बच्चों को वो एजुकेशनल डिसकंटिन्यूटी ना फेस हो. बट बच्चों के लेवल पे, पेरेंट्स के लेवल पे हमने देखा कि चैलेंज वहाँ पे आ रहा है कि बच्चे अपने फ्रेंड सर्कल खो रहे हैं, अपना वो कोजी एनवायरनमेंट खो रहे हैं. वहाँ पे जाके और टीचर का एटीट्यूड अलग है या फिर एनवायरनमेंट अलग है, वो सारी चीज़ें देख रहे हैं. बट विथ अ कोलैबोरेटिव हमारे फेलोज जो काम कर रहे हैं बच्चों के साथ, सिमिलर लाइन इनके फेलोज बात कर रहे हैं, तो वो टोन सिमिलर लग रहा है बच्चों को. उनको लग रहा है कि अरे हम एक घर से निकल के दूसरे घर में जा रहे हैं, भले हम 5 महीने के लिए माइग्रेट हो रहे हैं. सो दैट काइंड ऑफ कोजी एनवायरनमेंट दैट वी हैव बीन क्रिएटिंग, और वो एक कोलैबोरेटिव का एस्पेक्ट हमने देखा. अगेन एज यू सेड कि इनिशियली वी में स्ट्रगल, इनिशियली हमें भी वो पायलट तैयार करना, वो प्रोसेस सेट करना और वो एग्जाम्पल डोनर्स को दिखाना, दैट वॉज अ बिट काइंड ऑफ स्ट्रगल फॉर अस एज वेल, कि वो कैसे हम डोनर्स को दिखाए और उसके लिए फंड्स भी कैसे रेज करें. बट व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड, दिस इज थर्ड ईयर ऑफ आवर कोलैबोरेशन एंड ऑल, सो नाउ डोनर्स आर आल्सो गेटिंग कॉन्फिडेंट कि भाई इनको पहले चैलेंज आता था कि सिर्फ 5 महीने के लिए आप करोगे तो वो हम कैसे दिखाएं, हमारे वो क्राइटेरिया में नहीं बैठता है. बट एज अ कोलैबोरेटिव नाउ दे आल्सो हैव कॉन्फिडेंट कि भाई उन्हीं बच्चों के साथ आप कर रहे हो तो इम्पैक्ट हम दिखा सकते हैं. दो हमारे भी कुछ लीगल मैंडेट्स एंड ऑल दोज थिंग्स है, वो हम नहीं बिठा सकते. बट विथ अ कोलैबोरेटिव दे आर आल्सो फाइंडिंग इट ईजी कि भाई हाँ ऐसा कुछ है तो वी आर रेडी टू फंड एंड आल्सो स्केल द प्रोग्राम एंड ऑल दोज थिंग्स.
I'll just keep
Shubhankar, we will switch to.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. So I think whatever like to extend on what Moinak and what Dada Sahib said, that if the vision is rooted in how the child is at the center. Like I mean, if you're talking about a child being safe or the child being cared about, or everyone coming together to make a bolder A or from A to Z, if the child is at the focus and impact is what the child is learning, because at the end of whatever piecemeal solutions that we are providing, it is as useful as कि ठीक है हमारे लिए हमारे donor reports के लिए वो ना रह जाए, but actually it's actually changing the trajectory, moving the needle somewhere in terms of the student vision. And if at a department level or at a collective level, like there are multiple collectives that are formed, NGOs are formed, if at a collective level also we can have a child vision, so I think that would be very helpful. So, yeah.
We can maybe try to. Okay, we'll. Any comments from this side as well?
So is there competition also? Like I'm completely new to this area, so collaboration is great, but assuming that the size of the donor funding is limited, I mean, is there some speak of competition that also comes in this space? I'm very new, so I just wanted to understand. And everybody is approaching it with a problem in mind. Does that happen? So.
Take the mic.
Yeah, I think the first part is something that we still have to understand better, in my opinion. So there's a very good TED talk by Dan Palota on TED.com, which basically says that if you increase the size of the pie, then everyone gets a bigger slice. I think right now, in a lot of the narrative that we are sort of tangled in, we believe that the pie is not getting bigger. So for us, then we need to get a bigger slice of the pie. But how do we sort of maybe put collective effort to sort of increase the size of the pie, then that competition will subside. Right now, the truth is we can say all good things about it, but there is competition, right? Because everyone is fighting for the same CSR, the same philanthropist, and all of them have right now mostly finite, not wealth, but finite philanthropic capital. So we are still fighting for the same sort of pie. So there is competition, but it also will take equal amount of effort like we are putting in the social impact space for us to really reframe this narrative that there's only like the pie is not going to increase. So and that is effort. So I think we'll have to put that effort in so that the competition sort of subsides or actually मतलब वो ना रहे, because I don't think there is need to compete. There is enough and more to do the work, and if the work is done, then it does not matter, right? If there's whatever's left is it's great then. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Respond to that? If I may just comment on, or maybe after you.
I think I think there's also probably market information matching between what people want to give to and who's approaching them. But on the pie, I mean, for example, India's biggest foundation is the Premji Foundation. They're giving 4,000 crores a year. And they're saying they can give up to 8 to 10,000 crores. It's one of the top 5 foundations in the world. So I think it's also that potentially there's more money, but we need better ideas. We need more scale. And we talk about it sometimes. And sometimes they say, can you reach out to other people to ask for money for Teach for India? And I say, please do your research, because rich people get all sorts of requests all the time, and you say, okay, I'll pass it on to my team, but if you're not interested, you're not going to give, or if the idea doesn't stand out. So I think it's a bit of both. And I think someone was talking about, I think there's also part of how do you communicate, correct? How do you explain comparative advantage? How do you do your research about donors? Which I think you'd see a very, very good they're excellent ideas already, but stronger and stronger ideas coming that would also drive capital, correct? So
we have to do on our end to do what you said.
yeah, no, and you have to also know your donors. You have to. I've seen very, very few people, very few, approach me with they've thought through like, what do you care about, and this like, I'm not interested in things that are not scale. So if you ask me and it's not scale, and maybe that's my wrong thinking, but that's where So I think that will also drive what you were saying in terms of size of pie.
I can maybe share some experiences that I have seen. One, I feel with respect to the funding, it's largely driven by 3 things: people, place, or purpose. Either I am aligned with the people who are involved, I am aligned with the place, I am aligned with the purpose. If you are very lucky, if all the 3 things are intersecting with each other. Second thing, with respect to pie itself, it's growing. It's growing immensely. Now the Indian 2% CSR, last year we had some 30,000 crore, out of which some 2,000 crore or 1,000 some crore were unutilized. It was returned back. Number of billionaires in India over the last 1 decade has risen from some 30 odd to 150 odd right now. Number of multimillionaires have been. I think it's all about how you are, what Nisa also told, how you are researching the person, how you are researching the company, and making your mission their mission. And same applies with government, which we'll talk about that also as part of our next section. But how do you make your mission part of their mission if you are able to succeed? And I think Teach for India is a perfect example of that. There are many philanthropists in Mumbai and Pune circle who feel that Teach for India is their mission. If we are able to do that, I think it will be game changer. Is there anything from your side?
No, this is I'm still struggling with the solution to this topic. But one of the things that I was thinking about when I was coming here, from my experience, in my life have I seen where people start small with many A's, and how does that become a big A? Because I think that's really the topic of this conversation. कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री कोलैबोरेशन तो सब लोग करते हैं, वो हम लोग के पास बहुत सारे एग्जांपल्स हैं. एक दूसरे को हेल्प करना भी बहुत करते हैं. मैं यूनिवर्सिटी बनाता हूँ, कोई और यूनिवर्सिटी बनाता है. इफ दे वांट हेल्प आई हेल्प देम एंड दे लर्न फ्रॉम दैट एंड अनदर यूनिवर्सिटी गॉट मेड. ये ट्रिकल डाउन या लेवरेज वाला कि हमारे ग्रेजुएट्स इनके साथ कर रहे हैं, वो भी हम जानते हैं. But I think what we are talking about is in the corporate world, and please don't mind my bringing the analogy because मैं उस world से हूँ. And Nisa will bear me out. You know, Godrej grew organically, but it also grew through acquisitions and mergers. मुझे लगता है सोशल सेक्टर में मर्जर एक्विजिशन नहीं होता. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि हम और आप मिलके अब काम करते हैं, राइट? And this is a simple-minded example, but I'm involved with Rukmini Banerjee in Pratham. I'm involved in TFI. We know about Akanksha. I know that Ashish Dhawan and TCF and CSF were doing, and they're doing Nipun Bharat. So these are all these A's, mere hisab se. Now, can all of these come together and come up with a solution for all schools in India, and all of you, right? I think that is very difficult to pull off. Now, the ideal world is not that everybody should come together. It has to be both. Entrepreneurship and sprinkling of ideas नहीं होगी तो innovation नहीं होगा. तो आप लोगों को सबको हमको तो करना ही है, whatever. That is where the engine of ideas and growth comes from. But can some of these come together to create the big Godrej? Right, so that the soap goes to every house is really the question, and वो इस sector में नहीं होता. That is a fundamental issue.
There is.
But my immediate thought is it also good?
I don't know. I mean, what else is this kind of collaboration? Solve at scale.
Yeah, I think just from that perspective, I think firstly, I think the complication we have here is that the government is involved in this. And if you think about Karthik Muralidharan's work, he's not talking about making the budgets bigger. He's saying how do we make the government more efficient, correct? Which is a whole series of things like how much time teachers spend on elections, how we have. So again, coming back to your idea, you do need leaders from this sector to, rise up in the government, outside the government, because all policy, our education policy wasn't written by the government. It was written by foundations and people working in the sector. But how do we, it's not that I think the solutions are all there. They're probably staring at us in the face. But how do we come together? How do the best of from education come together to make it, I mean, I look at AI and I know people are like, I don't know, the robots will be beating us or taking over the world. And we know that technology has not been the solve. We saw in Teach for India also we gave devices in COVID. But a teacher with AI, a teacher with some of these will give us so much efficiency. But we need someone now to, maybe the Teach for India system to show in its schools that how some of this is working.
There is one hand from that side, so yes, we'll come to you as well.
Right. Thank you so much. So, hello everybody, I'm Manisha. I'm an organizational psychologist who's got a foot in both sides of the world, one in the corporate space where I do a lot of work in learning and development, and other I've been associated with this education sector for the last about 15 years plus, where I do work with parenting skills on government schools, as well as partner Teach for India for mental health support that we provide. I kind of have a different, maybe bringing the psychological perspective here. What you said, sir, was very relevant, that how about we all join our hands together? We're doing the similar stuff and together we make the bigger A. It sounds great, but I wonder if that's possible when the security in my existence becomes a threat, when it becomes a challenge that the other person could take away my IP and make something else, and I might lose my identity. So, as small entrepreneurs and small people, I think our security becomes the biggest concern in being able to join our hands in that way, I feel. And I say that from experience, where I have done some, I think, phenomenal work in being able to reach district schools and designing personality development, parenting programs. And the next thing I know is I'm out of the picture. Because now the bigger corporates don't want me because I'm too small, because they need a bigger presence in me. And when I go for the bigger presence, my name is erased and something else has happened and it's gone. So I wonder if we could create some kind of governance, some kind of a situation where I could be able to bring in my strengths. I know it's an ideal world I'm talking about, that nobody would kind of do that. And I wonder if that would be helpful. And if we're talking about people who are going to fund, then there's a question mark. Like, if I can already prove to you, and if I had the resources, I wouldn't need that much of funding. So that partnership, if we can build with more trust, and I wonder if that would bring us different results. No, don't have a proof of it yet, but I hope trying something out there. If I have something, I will definitely bring it next to you. Thank you.
We'll go to Surinder and then we'll come back here.
संतोष भाई ने जब सेशन की शुरुआत की थी कि कोलैबोरेशन क्यों ज़रूरी है, सो आई एम थिंकिंग कि डू वी हैव अदर ऑप्शन विदाउट कोलैबोरेशन, अगर मतलब इसके अलावा कोई ऑप्शन है क्या? सो आई थिंक जितनी भी बातचीत हम कर रहे हैं, एंड उसमें जो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट जो एक्सपेक्ट आया है कि फंडर, आई थिंक फंडिंग की आवश्यकता ही क्यों है? क्यों ना हम ऐसे मॉडल जनरेट करें। मैं अपने गांव में काम कर रहा हूं, मैं वहीं का रहने वाला हूं, मैंने अपने गांव में 2 टीचर अपनी तरफ से लगा रखे और मैं लगाने वाला हूं अपनी पूरी ज़िंदगी भर। क्या उस स्कूल को फंडिंग की ज़रूरत है? जो हम बातचीत कर रहे हैं कि जो लोकल गवर्नमेंट्स के, डू वी रियली नीड गवर्नमेंट कि भाई उस गांव में वो गांव वाले अपने स्कूल को चलाए ना? क्योंकि सरकार को हम इतने देर सरकार में लोग आएंगे जा रहे हैं, बट क्योंकि ये टफ है, जैसे परमत सर ने कहा कि एक बार जो मॉडल शुरू में आता है उसको जब तक हम बताते नहीं है कि इस तरह से काम करेगा, कोई उसको नहीं मानने वाला। बट नहीं मानने वाला तो क्या हम उसको ट्राई नहीं कर रहे हैं क्या? मतलब वी रियली नीड टू कि अगर सस्टेनेबल क्या है कि हम रहे या ना रहे, वो चीज़ें चलती रहे। एंड ऑफ कोर्स जो आप कह रहे थे कम्पिटिटिवनेस डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर में, कि ये जो प्रॉब्लम है ये सोल्व होनी चाहिए। हम जो हैं, अगर मैं अभी जो मेरा काम हो गया उसके बाद मैं क्या करूँगा? वी हैव अनदर वर्क, बट उसका लास्ट क्या हो सकता है? ये बहुत ही हार्ड क्वेश्चन है, बहुत ही टफ है, बट वी रियली नीड टू फाइंड द सॉल्यूशन कि उसका क्या हो सकता है, एंड वी नीड टू वर्क ऑन दैट।
संतोष, revolutionary Surinder has inspired me to share something. Otherwise, I thought I'll keep quiet. But nahi, because I think if we look at history, जो कुछ बातें कह रहे हैं कि in today's time everything has become so corporatized कि scale को भी will need a lot of structure, systems, TOCs. But just going back 70-80 years back, a lot of things that has happened at scale. The example that comes to my mind is of Gandhi, how he scaled a lot of things. Didn't necessarily happen at scale in the beginning. The example that I think all the time of Dandi March, 78 people was on that march, but I don't think there has been ever a bigger walk than a Dandi in last 100, 200 years. So that's one thing. Yes, I do feel that, how we have defined scale in last 10, 12, 13 years is something that can be relooked. It has been defined in terms of numbers, in terms of outreach, in terms of commodity. But what I'm curious about from this group is, something that I got reminded, I think Madhav said way back in 2000, early 2000, that small is beautiful and large is useful. So in a country like India, yes, scale is important. You can't work with one child and, be self-absorbed that, you're doing some great work, you've created oasis. But is it civil society's work to scale? matlab, is it CSO's work to scale? Whose work is to scale? That's something. And the other thing that's quite relevant, and I'm really appreciating this conversation about the bigger A. I've always thought, why haven't until now Gandhi Fellowship and Teach for India collaborated? I've asked this to Aditya, I've asked this to Shaheen, why haven't, Aditya and Nisha knows both, we met first with Aditya in a culture lab, I think happened 10 years back. Why haven't Teach for India and Gandhi Fellowship collaborated? And the other question that I'm curious for, and want the group to kind of respond is the match of supply and demand. And if you look at country like India, there are only 3-4 people at the bottom on which scale falls on. Teachers, ASHA workers. So anything that happens from top to bottom, any change and national curriculum, national policy, SEF, micro innovations, it falls down to teachers and health worker. So whatever A you create, you can have the best DM in the world, you can have the best district magistrate, you can have the best CEO, but eventually the behavior changes had to happen at a teacher level. Now these two people across India are under-resourced, under-skilled, and are never enough. You always have teacher shortage, you always have ASHA worker shortage. So, but the entire scale is focused on capacity building. So I think I am curious about how do we really rethink, bring that A and match supply and demand, because scale is tilted towards solving adaptive problems, but the demand is on the technical, on the structural, on the adaptive side. And I'll close this with one last example, that there is a national education policy which is in place, great policy made by civil society organization, but the budget that SCRT gets to implement that is less than 10 lakh or 5 lakhs. Now, what can an organization do together is build capacity, build modules on Diksha, but eventually they have 10 lakh. And to respond to Santosh, yes, the pie has increased to, let's say, 50,000 crore. But the budget of Rajasthan government alone is 70,000 crore.
Totally.
So I'm really grappling with all these questions, but thank you.
No, in fact, that's a very good, this conversation, by the way, what we just had, it's a very good segue into the next thing, which is about government as a collaborator. So we have the good thing that we started with collaboration within NGOs. We then went to funders as a collaborator. We are organically moving towards government as a collaborator. And some of the points that you have mentioned, Vivek, and also Surinder, about how do you see things trickling down to the grassroots level where you have ASHA worker, teachers, and all these as an implementer. And without government as a collaborator, how can you do that? So now this section, we'll be talking more about government as a collaborator. And maybe this would be a good time. Last section, we started with Nisa and Pramat. But this time, let's start with the entrepreneurs and the audience. Government as a collaborator, what do you think? Both of you can listen and maybe respond when others have spoken about government as a collaborator. Any thoughts from the audience? How has been your experience of working? And the panel, and maybe this side can also react. But any experiences of working with government as a collaborator?
तो एक सुबह का सेशन भी हमारा मोस्टली ऑन इट वाज लीडरशिप एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स. सो आई वाज रेजोनेटिंग कि विवेक भाई उसमें भी बता रहे थे कि, और राजश्री दी भी बता रही थी कि जो लीडर है अल्टीमेटली उस पर डिपेंड करता है. लीडर पावर और बाकी चीज़ें अगर देना चाहता है तो दे कैन एबल टू ग्रो अदर, लाइक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, विद इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो या फिर आउट ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो. तो कोलैबोरेशन में भी वही होता है कि जब कोई लीडर संस्था को सेंटर में रखता है या फिर चाइल्ड को सेंटर में रखता है, उस हिसाब से वो डिपेंड करता है कि वो कोलैबोरेट करना चाहता है नहीं चाहता है. गवर्नमेंट के साथ भी वी हैड सिमिलर एक्सपीरियंस कि जहाँ पे कलेक्टर या फिर जो भी मशीनरी है उसको लग रहा है कि भाई गवर्नमेंट का हमारा इम्पैक्ट ज़्यादा दिखाना है या फिर सच में कुछ डीप वर्क करना है, तो वो लीडर की जो मेंटालिटी थी उस हिसाब से वी थॉट और वी एक्सपीरियंस्ड कि वहाँ पे कोलैबोरेशन के लिए गवर्नमेंट कितना ओपन है और कितना क्लोज है. दैट वी रियली एक्सपीरियंस एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स. सो I feel कि ultimately it depends on the leader who is sitting at that decision making position.
So I definitely agree with the person sitting at the table plays a big role. But when we work with the public school system and only with the public school system, and government is what comes to mind when we discuss that, right? But as we moved outside of Telangana, we also realized that government is not one thing or any one person also. Every new state government we go to and talk about nurturing problem solving capacity, etc., the language that is used across is different. Some people call it innovation, some people call it entrepreneurship, some people call it problem solving. Is there a shared language is something that we personally struggle with. The second thing that we're also hearing is when we, for example, talk about early childhood or innovation, each of them actually wants a different solution, right? So again, when we talk about scale, there is no, at least in our experience, there has been no one size fits all solution at all, even at government's level, right? So anything we're creating for Telangana, I can't just take it to Karnataka, for example, right? So that has been our experience in terms of adapting to understand what governments at different levels actually want as well, right? I'm not seeing it as one player. But the third thing, to go a little, I've also realized that I like the point that you shared, right? Government is just not the top bureaucrat, but it's also the government teacher, right? And that has, to be honest, been our biggest learning, because when we worked with the Odisha government, the nice part about it is we were building curriculum for them to teach, but they put 7 reviews with 20 government teachers for that curriculum at different stages.
Is this good or bad?
Which is excellent. Because we were, even simple things, right? Do you want your lesson plan to be 4 pages, 1 page, or 2 page? Even things like that, they had asked the teachers to decide. And for us, that was a very big learning, because usually we go there at the end, after we've piloted, tried it with our facilitators and all. But where can collaborate, at what point can collaboration start? Can it start at literally when you're scripting your lesson plan? So that really changed our understanding of collaboration, I think, and when it can start also, not only for scale but for co-creation. Yeah.
Can I just add one thread to the same thing? So, just want to add one line to the where can collaboration start, and I think it's been a journey for us. I think we all, as I'm speaking from an entrepreneur organization lens, we go in to collaborate with the government to embed our solution because we want to scale it fast, and we have cracked a strategy to scale it to 1 million children in 5 years. Like I have an Excel sheet, right? Many of us may have it. It will work. I'm very convinced that when my tech-based program reaches 1 million kids, it will have that impact. But when we work with governments, I think an insight I'm having, and I'm playing with the idea, I don't know what I'm doing with it today. Governments are capable of co-creating. Leadership in government is capable. It is hard, it is slow work, it requires us to embrace slowness. Like Vivek, what you were saying was so beautiful, ki human resource ki kami hai. We need teachers, and the only person till today who is willing to have a conversation about expanding the human resource with me is a government leader. They recognize the shortage, they are willing to put money behind it. My solution is saying, मैं करा दूंगी अगर teacher भी नहीं है तो. So the question really is, if I'm co-creating with you and you're willing to solve the root cause, am I now willing to go back to the drawing board and reimagine what I want to do with you to actually increase the resources in the system? And it's been a reflection for me. It's very, very hard. But now when we're tweaking some things, I think it works. So just wanted to kind of bring in that co-creation. I'm where you are, but I think we could be like 3 steps behind. Sorry for the interruption.
Fantastic.
No worries, very well. I think system is changing, and I have been part of the government. I know the in and out. एक चीज समझ आई कि everyone is ready to bring the change. आपने बोला I am working in NU, 50-60% teachers seats are vacant. है ही नहीं टीचर. हम कहते हैं एट रिस्क बच्चा, जहाँ पे उस बच्चे के पास एक फैसिलिटेटर नहीं है, सपोर्ट सिस्टम नहीं है, जहाँ पर वो सीख सके, बढ़ सके, आगे ग्रो कर सके. I realized the officers are so good. They are very aligned. They said, हाँ ये problem है and we can solve it together. So it's totally depend on the अप्रोच कि आप क्या अप्रोच रख रहे हो, आप कैसे जा रहे हो उस गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स के पास अपनी बात रखने के लिए, कोलैबोरेशन करने के लिए, टोटली डिपेंड्स ऑन इट। मुझे लगता है साथ ही साथ पढ़ने की बहुत ज़रूरत है एज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। क्या पॉलिसीज़ हैं, क्यों पॉलिसीज़ बनाई गई हैं, उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था, वो कैसे अलाइन करती है आपके प्रोग्राम के साथ, सो दैट व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट द सिस्टमिक लेवल चेंज, यू टॉक अबाउट द पॉलिसी लेवल चेंज, एंड कैसे आप उसमें वैल्यू ऐड कर रहे हो। इफ़ यू आर क्रिएटिंग लाइक अरे हम आएंगे और बदल देंगे सब कुछ, तो वो एक पहले ही आपके दीवार बन गई, राइट? आप पहले ही बन गया कि यार मेरे ही सिस्टम की, मेरे ही लोगों की, मुझसे ही कमी बता रहे हो, और वो भी आउटसाइड द पर्सन, तो पॉसिबल नहीं है आप चेंज ला पाओ। तो आपकी अप्रोच पे बहुत डिपेंड करता है कि आप किस तरीके से आइडिया शेयर कर रहे हो, कोलैबोरेशन को पिच कर रहे हो उनके सामने, राइट?
Yeah, just wanted to check. यहाँ पे कितने entrepreneurs, how many entrepreneurs are there who haven't worked with governments? Haven't worked with governments at that scale. मतलब you can say हमारे state government के साथ MOU है. That is, I would say, working with government. But if you just wanted to understand that. Okay. हाँ, but नहीं है. That you're not. Okay, great. So then let me share the other side and the other perspective, which is that we haven't worked with government at scale or with government in general with 2-3 challenges that is there. One is a requirement of immediate scale, jo will we be able to do it at that time? Because even when doors open, it comes with, we will give you permission, but you bring in resources, right? And that is a very tight space for a young organization. Like, you have given us permission with no wings to fly, and we have to build the wings, and then if we fall, it's on us, right? So, and you try once and that doesn't happen, that is a huge hit. That is one side. The other side is also which government you work with. That can also kind of taint on what is your political alignment, and depending on the geography and the people in power, that is also a fear that I have, right? And the third is when a pitch has happened and say, this is what a potential solution program could look like, this is what 1 year could look like, and they're like, great, now I'll work in 40 schools 1 month. At the end of it, I want all parents there. And you know it's an election rally. And yeah, 40 schools, immediately from 200 children, you have the option to work with 40,000 children, right? Suddenly your website numbers can change. You can show impact outreach to a whole another level, and then go pitch to 10 more people that now give me crores. But are we actually doing something for the children there? And that is what has held me back from saying yes to working in one particular area with 40 schools in with the government, and said, sorry, I don't think we'll be able to do a good job. You do the best you want for whatever you want. So that is the other side, and I don't know how to navigate it at this point.
Thank you so much for bringing that point. So there are two things that comes to the mind immediately. One is there are some assumptions, some preconceived assumptions, which may be having the company of all the other panelists may help. But also, it's what you were also saying is totally right. These things happen, and how you handle it, I would say, is what will help you emerge as an entrepreneur, as an organization also, if you are really looking to work with government. But in the interest of time, would like to take opinion from both of you about working with government. Now, there were a lot of I would say, and I was also writing down this, that there is a good cacophony right now in the room, which would probably emerge into some harmony. Potentially, and working with government is always that kind of cacophony, right? So let's hear from the veterans about what are your views. Should we even work with government? छोड़ देना चाहिए.
Veteran means smart and not old.
No, I would be.
I think they might have better stuff to share than us.
I will only share what my personal experience is, because I don't want to be a veteran or an expert in this. I have found it pretty frustrating personally to work on policy with government.
Correct.
I get called into these meetings and to help make policy and so on, and I personally find it a complete waste of time, because people change, governments come, go, everything changes, and nothing gets done on the ground. So personally, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. A lot of people work on that. That's where systemic change can be brought about. But I just don't have the patience for it. Where I find that the government collaboration does help is if you have a leader, hopefully the chief minister, who's committed to doing something. Then you have a 5-year window कि कुछ घुसा दो और कर दो एकदम, मतलब, and make the change happen. I'm sorry to use language like that, but you really bung in something and say कि you give me license to do it. So I'll give you an example. I have a very good relationship with Chandrababu Naidu because of the work in Hyderabad with ISB and so on. So just 2 days ago, I got a call from him. He had come to Delhi. He said, come, and he said, a lot of people are giving me advice about higher education, and they are saying, ye kar do, wo kar do. AI university, that's the new thing. I said, do they want to use university to teach AI, or they're going to use AI to teach? So he said, that's a good question. I never asked them that, but everybody is saying I should build an AI university. So I said, listen, I have 2 ideas. That's what I can do. But I want complete license to do it. And of course, now I can demand something like that. I don't want to work with anybody. I don't want to work with your son who's the minister. I don't want to work with the bureaucrats. You give me license to do these 2 things. I can do it. I'll deliver it. I'm just using that as an example, not to boast or, I think if you find a leader who's willing to work with you, and use that opportunity to just push some solutions, I think that is the only time I have found government very productive. Because then nobody knows this, but my first education project was in Malaysia to build a university. And I can tell you that in 1995, I built a university in Malaysia because the Prime Minister wanted it, and that university is there. It's standing there. There are 8,000 students, and my whole career in education started because of that one leader saying, make a university, because I don't want Indian software engineers to come and take over Malaysia. I want Malaysians to be software engineers, right? So I do think that you find the right partner, right collaborator, individual. I'll give you a counter example. I don't want to take up too much time, but I was horrified recently. I've done a lot of work with the AAP government. Ashoka designed the curriculum for liberal arts for the schools of excellence in Delhi. So I've seen that they were very progressive and working really hard. I just met with the Khan Academy guys. They were doing their teachers, some of you know Punjab, they were working with teachers in Punjab at scale. Yeah. That's the only solution at scale that Khan Academy has implemented in India. True. And they're very proud of it. They've been thrown out by the AAP government in Punjab. And they're saying that, sorry, keep this to yourself, I don't know if it's public, but they have gone through 7 IAS officers.
Yes, that's right.
7 IAS officers have brought them back, thrown them out, they can't decide whether they want to continue with this program or not. What will you scale? What will you build? I mean, you're completely at the whims, and this is a government that you think would be conducive, having been known for school education. So the vagaries of the system are really frustrating, and you have to find the right people at the other end.
Nisha, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think when it comes to working with the government, I think you mentioned, if you don't share the views of whichever government happens to be in the state, I think, I think in this work in non-profits and, leaving India better, you will get people with very, very strident views on what they, who they'll work with or who they'll not. And I think someone mentioned that self-work. I think we all need to do that self work, and we need to have the wisdom to work with more people, correct? And even if we didn't vote for that government, even if we don't agree with every view of theirs, if we want to move things forward, we have to learn to talk to everyone, and especially young people, especially people like you. I think the other thing that I leave you with, I was quite interested to see in this general elections what happened with, say, someone like Dhruv Rathi, mostly in English, some Hindi, 25 million subscribers, and then people showing these videos, you know, in their villages, in their. I think the other way, maybe it's not collaboration with the government, but is education of the parents, education of the populace of what they should be voting for, correct? Or there could be other smaller, you know, at the local level where you mobilize the community. And again, there's technology, there's scale because of we have YouTube and stuff. So I think there's other ideas of how do you give the government the right incentive to do what they want, and can you do it in a way that it comes from love, correct? Can you do it without being against the government, correct? So I think that is the I think that's what leadership can do. And you know, we talked about Gandhi. I mean, you read his history, there's a lot of, firstly, he changed his views on things, whether it was women or the caste system along the way. But you see the give and take. You know, I will give Jinnah space. I will ask Nehru to step back. If we want progress to happen, it's not going to be this perfect linear line.
With love with government.
Love with government.
Yeah, and you, and you're saying you know, and there will be Chandra Babu Naidu. There will be some people who are not so progressive, but I think, I mean, if I'm 46 now, but 20 years ago, I would have been up in arms about, from students and stuff, but that is not taking us forward. And we do have to give each individual person the respect and listen, correct? So I think that we do, otherwise we won't get anywhere.
I'm sorry, we'll have to. It's the toughest part,
She
and
won't be able to sleep.
okay. So they have opened the door, and there have been three, four.
Last one. Just last.
Okay.
I'll be very quick. I'm just having this constant thought because we were talking about Gandhi ji, the Satyagraha, the Dandi March, and all those things. So I was thinking that every one of us knows कि क्या problems है. Like teachers की problem है, ground पे problem है, ये problem है, वो problem है, government के साथ problem है. But I think जब we are talking about collective, why can't we all come together and do like some Dandi March collectively to national state or policies like. We need this change. We need teachers on the ground because every state is facing the same problem of teachers. So this was just the thought going on in my mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Very good note to end.
Very good note to end on. So maybe just to take one more minute to summarize the conversations that we have had. And Rashidri, please point me out if I'm doing something wrong. So just 2-3 points. So one, we delved into, I would say one conversation was smaller A and how smaller A's come together to form a bigger A. How we can think about collective and not a collection, because I feel collection is where many organizations are together but may not be having common purpose. If we are able to build collective, that would be fantastic. And that's where all the organizations merging towards. Second interesting thing that we discussed, and that's my favorite topic also, is about finding strength in invisibility. Whether it's about collective action with the government or whether it's about collective action with among ourselves, more invisible we are, more impactful we are. And I think that will give us more collaboration opportunities. And third, which I think you just mentioned, and I keep saying this, if you have to work with government, ishq karna padega. If you don't love government, and this love has to be totally मतलब जैसे अपनी वाइफ को करते हो, अपनी गर्लफ्रेंड को करते हो, उस टाइप का लव करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो आप नहीं काम कर पाओगे सरकार के साथ. On that note, it was pleasure having all of you over here and pleasure to host both of you. Fantastic meeting you all. Thank you.